Welcome learners, we are in the module 7 on contribution of Indian philosophers. In this module, we have already completed 4 lessons, that is we have completed the educational contribution of Swami Vivekanand, educational contribution of Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore and Jiddu Krishnamurti. Today in this lesson we will study about the educational contribution of Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. Now before starting the lesson, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Neelkamal Saran, Assistant Professor in School of Education, IGNOU. Now let us see the learning outcomes of this video. What the learner or you will going to achieve after watching this video. The first one is discuss the philosophy of life as per Aurobindo, describe the educational views of Aurobindo and explain the Aurobindo's view on concept of school, aims of education, curriculum, pedagogy and role of teacher and students. You will also going to describe the importance of Aurobindo's educational views in the present time. Now let us see the life sketch of Sri Aurobindo. If we see the journey of life of Sri Aurobindo, we will find his life's journey in 3 stages. First stage is related to Aurobindo as a child, second stage is Aurobindo as a freedom fighter and third stage is Aurobindo as a yoga guru. So let us see the first stage, that is Aurobindo as a child. Sri Aurobindo Ghosh was born in Calcutta on 15th August 1872 in a Bengali speaking family. He was born in a rich family. At the age of 7, he was sent to England for his studies. He lived there for 14 years. He prepared for ICS, Indian Civil Service Examination. He qualified ICS entrance exam also, but he was disqualified as he was not present in the riding examination. At that time, Indian Civil Service exam was too tough. Riding examination, they took one riding examination also. It was a part of Indian Civil Service exam. After returning to India in 1893, he joined as Professor of English at Baroda College in Gujarat. Though he studied from abroad, from England, his educational ideas and theories were as per the needs of Indians. Later on, he joined Indian National Congress and became an active freedom fighter. He started 2 weekly editions. One was in English and another was in Bengali. The English weekly edition was Bande Matram and Bengali weekly edition was Yugantar, in which he used to write his thoughts related to freedom so that it can reach to common people and common people can be encouraged for freedom. In 1908, he was arrested and sent to jail for Alipur bomb case. In jail, he studied literature on religion, spirituality and philosophy. He learnt yoga and meditation also. It is that stage where his views of life were changed due to these spiritual experiences. After coming out of prison, he published Karma Yogin in English and Dharma in Bengali. In 1910, Aurobindo went to Pondicherry and spent his rest of the life there in doing spiritual practices. He spent 40 years in Pondicherry and by doing spiritual practices, he did spiritual practices there, and gradually from Aurobindo Ghosh he became Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, Yog Guru Sri Aurobindo Ghosh. In 1926 he established Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry. He initiated an international ashram and international center of education and social activities. Auroville as a city of human unity was his experiment in Pondicherry in India. Sri Aurobindo died on 5th December 1950. Now let's see the philosophy of life according to Aurobindo. Aurobindo's philosophy of life was based upon his ideas of idealistic philosophy of Vedas and Upanishads. His philosophy, he belongs to idealistic school of philosophy. So his philosophy was related to this idealistic thoughts. In other words, we can say that his philosophy was based on truth, beauty and goodness. And the ultimate aim of life according to idealistic school of thought is to attain salvation. So, according to Aurobindo also, our ultimate aim of life is to attain salvation. His philosophy was related to awakening of spiritual being of man. To awaken the spiritual being or to attain salvation, what human has to do? Human has to become superhuman. From human, he or she has to become superhuman. Now, how he or she can become a superhuman? He or she has to control, or he or she has to understand himself. What is the purpose of his or her existence? What work he has to do? So, we have to understand human nature. Then after understanding human nature or controlling ourselves, we have to control our mind. Mind should be trained. We should control our consciousness. Then after doing these two, first is we have to control ourselves, we have to understand ourselves, then we have to train our mind, our consciousness, and after these two, super mind exists. Aurobindo says that there is the existence of super mind which represents the higher place of consciousness. This means that it is the stage, super mind is a stage where human being is free from materialistic desire, the pains and sufferings, ignorance, his greed. So, this is the higher place of consciousness. It is the stage where human being prepare themselves, or they can attain salvation. So, everything which we do in our life is to attain salvation. This is the philosophy of Aurobindo. Now, let us see the educational philosophy of Aurobindo. Aurobindo's educational philosophy was based on integral education. He has given the concept of integral education. Now, this is very important. Integral education. What is integral education? We as a human being thinks that education is only related to intellectual development, but Aurobindo says that no, it is not so. Education is not only intellectual development, but it is all round, comprehensive, balanced and holistic development of learners. It is the integral growth of the human personality, body, mind and soul. All three things should be educated. Aurobindo says that not only mind but body, mind and soul, all these three should be educated. Integral education should have 5 major aspects according to Aurobindo. The first one is the physical being. Physical being means tapasya or yoga of beauty, means the student should be given physical education. They should understand the they should understand their physical activities. They should control their physical activities. They have to understand about themselves. Next is the vital being. Vital being means tapasya or yoga of power. Aurobindo says that the senses should be trained, because these senses are the root cause of all the desires. So, our sense organs should also be trained. Our hearing skills, speaking skills, listening skills, all these skills should be trained or educated. Now, third one is the mental being. Mind should be educated. Students should be given knowledge. Students should discover new knowledge, and they should apply this knowledge in their life situation. So, mind should be educated, mind should be trained. Now, the fourth one is the psychic or tapasya or yoga of love. This is related to psychological part of human being. The psychic consciousness of human being should be trained or educated. Child should be given the education of the soul. Now, we have educated the physical part, vital being, mental being, psychic being. Now, the next is spiritual development. When the child has given physical education, vital education, mental education and psychic education, he or she gets liberated from the materialistic desires, pains, sufferings of the world. He or she has overcome over his greed, over his desires. So, spiritual development is also important. Integral development of physical, vital, mental, psychic and the spiritual development all bring about the transformation of man into a spiritual being. Why we are getting education? We are getting education because we have to attain salvation. We have to get free from this materialistic desire. Now, let us see what are the aims of education according to Sri Aurobindo. Now, we have seen that Aurobindo's educational philosophy revolves around 3 things. First one is body, second is mind and third one is soul. So, as his aims of education also revolves around 3 things, it is related to body, training of mind and training of soul. Let us see it one by one. First aim of education is perfection of soul. The main aim of education is to help the child to grow his soul, to draw out the best and make it perfect for a noble cause. Everything that we do should be for a noble cause, for the development of our country. So, aims of education should be such that it inculcates virtues, ethics among the child. Now, the second important aim of education is self-realization. Idealistic school of philosophy says that our ultimate aim of life is self-realization. We have to realize our inner self. There is a soul, which supreme soul, and we have to understand this. Man achieves perfection when he or she realizes self. So, second aim of education is self-realization. Third aim of education is senses should be trained fully senses, our smelling should be trained, speaking skills, listening skills, hearing skills, all should be trained. Education should be such that all should be trained. Aurobindo also says that the senses can be trained fully when manas, chitta and nerve are pure. Manas is related it is related to our thought. Chitta is related to our consciousness, and nerve, these all three things should be pure. Another important aim of education is to develop consciousness. According to Aurobindo, education has 4 levels. Now, this is another important aim of education, that education has 4 levels. First one is Chit. Chit is related to our memory, conscious and unconscious memory, or we can say that passive and active memory. Manas is related to thought process, the thought which comes in our mind, and intelligence is related to the discrimination between right and wrong. Now, when we have controlled our thought processes, we have controlled our memory, and we can distinguish or discriminate between right and wrong, then we can achieve the 4th level, that is knowledge. It is the stage where super mind exists. Highest level of, it is the stage of highest level of consciousness where man gets free from this materialistic desire. A teacher should develop all these 4 levels harmoniously. Now, what is the idea of school according to Sri Aurobindo? Now, when everything revolves around body, mind and soul, the school, according to Aurobindo, school, college and university should educate the child's academic as well as their social activities, because school is a part of society, and a child is coming from society, and again he will be sent back to society. So, education should be such that the child should get academic, should get involved in academic as well as social activities. So, education cannot be given in isolation. It is social activities should be also a part of education. Next is the school should develop different type of activities such as collaboration, consultation and lectures in an integral manner. School should provide opportunities for integral development of learner. Integral development means a school should provide opportunities for the development of body, mind and soul. Therefore, aims, curriculum and method of teaching to be the light of the concepts of integral education. According to Aurobindo, all these should be based on the integral education. Let us see what should be curriculum. According to Aurobindo, curriculum should be confined to limited syllabus and a few textbooks. Aurobindo says that curriculum should be confined to limited syllabus and few textbooks. It includes all those subjects which promotes mental and spiritual development of the learner. Curriculum should promote mental and spiritual development. It should have flexibility that meets the individual need. Every individual is different from other. Every child is different from other. He or she comes from a different background. So, curriculum should be such that it provides flexibility to meet the individual needs. Curriculum should be able to motivate the learners. It should motivate the learners to learn. Curriculum should involve creativity. It provides opportunity to the child to do some creative act, some constructive activities, and the most important is curriculum should be interesting. He described the subjects in the curriculum according to the different stages. First is primary stages. When the child is in primary stage, he should be taught the subjects in mother tongue, and English should be taught, national history, arts, painting, general science, social studies, and arithmetic should be taught to a child of primary stage. Now, he has given some subjects for the secondary stage. According to him, mother education should be given in mother tongue, and English, French, arithmetic, art, chemistry, physics, botany, social science, philosophy, and health education should be given to a child of secondary stage. Now, next is university stage. Indian and Western philosophies, history of civilization, English, literature, French, sociology, psychology, history of science, chemistry, physics, botany, international relations, and integration should be taught to a child of university stage. Now, for vocational education, arts, painting, photography, sewing, sculpture, drawing, shorthand, cottage industries, carpentry, nursing, mechanical and electrical engineering, Indian and European music, and dramatization should be taught in vocational education. Next is, let us see the teaching methods as suggested by Aurobindo. Aurobindo said that child should be treated with love and sympathy. Education should be given through mother tongue. Education should be according to the interest of the child. Education should be given through self experience. The child should be given opportunity for some hand on experience. Emphasis should be given on learning by doing. Education should be such that it provides the opportunity to the child where they learn by doing. Retention is much more, or retention increases when we learn by doing ourselves. So, education should be such that it provides opportunity to the child so that they can learn by doing, they can learn from their self experiences. Education should be given through cooperation of the teacher and students. Education is a process of where teacher and students they learn and learn together. Means teacher should cooperate with the students and help them in learning. A free environment should be provided to the child so that they can gain more knowledge through their efforts. Education should be according to the nature of the child. This is one important which was given emphasis by Aurobindo, that education should be according to the nature of the child. It should not be imposed by the teacher or by the elders. Child should get an opportunity, freedom to learn according to his or her own nature. Now, what is the role of teacher and the students? Aurobindo said that nothing can be taught, but everything can be learned. Aurobindo said that nothing can be taught to a child, Everything is inside the child himself or herself. So nothing can be taught from outside. Everything can be learned. Teacher is a helper, facilitator and guide, not an instructor or taskmaster. The task of a teacher is a helper and facilitator. He shows the path to the child. For example, if a child goes to a wrong direction, the task of the teacher is to get back him or her to a right direction. Just like a gardener, what a gardener does in his garden, if a plant doesn't grows in a straight manner and gets tilted, he ties one stick so that it grows in a straight manner or in a right direction. Just like a gardener, teacher is also a helper, facilitator and guide. A teacher should not impart knowledge but should gain should show the path to acquire the knowledge. He doesn't impart, the teacher doesn't impart knowledge but shows the path to acquire knowledge. How a child can acquire knowledge, the teacher helps in that only. Knowledge is within the learner. Teacher, the task of teacher is only to show the path by which he or she can acquire that knowledge. It is wrong to mold the child into the shape as desired by the elders, ignoring and destroying the divine in the child. Aurobindo said that a child should not be molded according to their elders or their teachers. He or she can develop according to their own nature, his or her own nature. Now, there are some questions for you all to reflect. First one is, explain Aurobindo's views on concept of school, aim of education. Third one is curriculum. Fourth one is pedagogy. And fifth one is teacher and students. Another question is, describe the relevance of Aurobindo's educational views in the present time. Now, to sum up, we have learnt today about the philosophy of life according to Sri Aurobindo, and we have learnt that Aurobindo, he belongs to idealistic school of philosophy. We have also studied about the educational ideas of Sri Aurobindo. His educational ideas were based on integral education, that is education of body, mind and soul. We have also studied the concept of school, aims of education, curriculum, methods of teaching and role of teacher and students as suggested by Aurobindo. In the next video, we will study about the educational contribution of Giju Bhai Badheka. Thank you.